Okay, so part two of assembling the new English saddle pattern with tree. Something I wanted to, after listening to the last video, I realized I didn't qualify some statements I made about the finish work. I talked about the difference between lines and doing the actual stitches. And I said that, there's a preference in the show world. I should have said that that's for the English pleasure classes. English pleasure class, that particular class, is a beauty contest. And so the only thing that the judge really has is the horse and the tack, right? So all things being equal, and a lot of times it's exactly the same model in the original finish class. They'll look for dirt, they'll look for scuffs, whatever, on the model itself. And if it's a perfect English style pleasure horse, then the only thing they have to look at, of course, is the tack, making sure it fits right and that it looks real. Okay, so I'm going to try and go in. If you see here, I did some lines. So here's my lines, because I talked about the difference between putting in stitched lines, and then the same thing here is the stitches, right? So what I was saying is that there's a tendency for this detail work on a saddle to win over this type of detail work, okay? As for the other classes, it doesn't seem to matter. And I haven't actually shown this saddle pattern, but my previous one, I which is North American National Championships for model horse showing, but I was able to get either a first or a second place in all of the other English performance classes, such as hunt and jump, and gymkhana and games and trail, and all the other English classes. So it didn't matter so much when there were other things in the diorama. But in English pleasure, it is such a beauty pageant contest. You have to be absolutely perfect in order to win that. And that's the one class that's like a holy grail for me. I've managed to get, first or second place in just about every other performance class, except for that one. So I thought I should qualify that so you understood a little bit better what I was talking about. So English pleasure, everything has to be perfect, because it is the horse, and they're at the very best. I'm going to use lines. I did both. If anybody has ever read my books, I think somewhere in there I said that I'm always making two saddles whenever I do them, just in case, something like this, I've got, examples. But I'm going to use the lines because that's what I normally use. And today we're going to start with assembly. And I'm sure people are really excited to start assembly. Now, the first thing I do is, just to make my life a little easier, is I get all the parts and pieces for the different sections of the saddle. So these are the pieces here for the flaps, okay? So we've got the skiver cover, we got the flap supports, we've got the padding, we've got knee blocks and knee block covers, and then the additional padding for the back side. So we'll start with right here, okay? Now, I've done this a lot of times, so I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'll try and remember to explain to you easier ways to do it. Basically, first step is going to be to put our first layer of padding, which is these pieces here, onto these pieces here, the flap supports, okay? So I have done this enough times that I know the general shape and where I want the glue. So I'll just start with, I've got a tip, and then it comes up this way, and then right along there. So you see that? And then we'll go ahead and put that piece on there. The important thing on here is that this is flush along here, along the top, and that this is just a little bit back from the edge, okay? Because your skiver is going to fold over that, and it's nice to give a little pocket to tuck into. All right, just go ahead and do that on the other side. The assembly actually goes pretty quickly once you have all of the other work done. So we'll get this, hopefully get this done relatively quickly for you. Again, we'll put it on here, make sure that's back just a little bit from the edge, and then make sure that this along here is flush, all right? And then we'll go ahead and turn these like this. These go in the back, and I'm going to kind of explain these. These are where they're just going to fold over the outside edge of these flaps. just to give it a more padded look. The important thing is when you're putting these on is actually on this side to make sure it's even all the way around that outside curve and it's flush here. So flush here and then an even amount all the way around. It's not going to come all the way here. That would be just too much bulk and the seat wouldn't sit right on the model. So we'll do that on these. And because it's symmetrical, just have to, all right, like that. All right, next step is we're going to take our cover pieces here and we're going to put them to cover up here. We'll start there and we're going to match this edge. And I'll show you, that's what makes it a little bit easier to do this because there's no, try to take away as much guessing as possible. So we're just going to match right in there. And then find the one, that's this one here. So we'll match the edges right there and all the way around. Go ahead and press that in place really well. Okay, and we'll do that for this side. All right. And next we're going to take and we're going to glue right along here. Okay, so we're going to tuck it into that little pocket we left. Try to get a little bit over that edge and also all the way back this way so it just folds over like that. Another thing about using the suede instead of the foam is that it sticks, the glue sticks a lot better. So I'm thankful people suggested it. All right, so right here, I kind of like to do like a little tuck and then that works really good. And then so, I mean, you can glue the skiver if you want. I tend to put it right where I'm trying to get it to stick. So we'll start with that right there. Got something to wipe off my fingers. And of course, I have dogs, so occasionally there will be a dog here in the picture. All right, I just kind of pull that back just a little bit. Okay. All right, now we'll put that one aside. So I switch pieces, and that gives time for the glue to set up. All right, and then we're going to kind of do a little trim. I don't need that there. If this is tall enough, you can kind of trim that off. Not so bad. This right back here, I do trim that. That's just excess. Go ahead and do that to this one. Now, if you notice, it's stretched a little right here, so I'm going to just go ahead and trim any of this excess as well. Okay, go ahead and trim this back here, right along the curve of that support, and then right here, we'll see if there's anything that we can get rid of. All right, so now we'll go ahead and we're going to do this here. Apparently I didn't cut that. If you forget to cut it, make sure you the cut here should be just from, you know, from here to right where the support ends. This one here, I did cut it in the pattern, so I'll always do it later. This one here gets to be a little bit tricky, so I used to use a blocking tool to pre-do this for me, but now I've gotten to a point where I don't need the blocking tool. The pattern itself helps to control it. So I'm going to flip that up like that, and then I'm just going to hold it right about here because we have to make it around that curve. I'm going to create a little there, and then lift and pull. And we want to get all these wrinkles put together, and then almost at the end here, we're going to do another one. And then what also helps when I'm doing these is to use these flat, so they're kind of like duckbill. They're flat, they're wide, and it just helps. I can pull it. Another reason why I like the white glue, it gives me a little bit more working time for things like this. Okay, I'll put that aside. We'll do it again. Usually there's only about 3 of those darts, I guess you could call them. And if you notice, I'm not putting it on the craft foam, or I mean, sorry, the felt. All right, this is just on the very edge of the skyber. Okay, and then go ahead and start here. Get the straight, right? Get that straight. And then as I go around the curve, I'm gonna gather it together, make a dart. And I gather it together, make a dart. And then maybe one more right there. Okay, so I should have about 3. Squeeze and push it towards the center, or yeah, towards the center. And then we get a nice, see how that edge is wrinkle free? Okay, that's what we're looking for. And then one last time, we'll go ahead and push that down. I didn't do that in this one here. Don't really have any. That's fine. Okay, once the glue is pretty much set up, then we'll go ahead and trim again. So I'm going to trim this off. I don't need it. That's excess, right? That's trimmed. And then we're going to try and trim off these darts. So I got 4 on this one. That's okay. We're just getting rid of this bulk. It's not really necessary. So anytime you can get rid of extra bulk, it's good. And then what I do to help flatten it a little bit more is I have there's a leather smoothing tool. Any hard plastic would work, but the point here is we're smoothing, okay? I'm smoothing that up to make sure that my darts don't show where I cut them, or even where the fold is, and just to get it nice and flat, okay? And then once I do that, just to make sure, you know, here there's a little bit that might be showing, so I could probably trim a little bit of that off, all right? So that's a good smooth. Looks pretty good, right? So there's our flap one, and then we'll do the same thing over here. We'll go ahead and trim off that excess, and then we'll trim the darts. There's only 3 on this one. It's a little bit right there would be showing, and then use the smoother, flatten it, and then push it up, smooth it here to try and get rid of any wrinkles or bubbles there, okay? So then there's our second one all done. Now, of course, knee blocks, something I added recently, or to this pattern. You get 1 on either side. Knee blocks usually start, if you notice there's a little indent here, so the knee blocks start right about there. I'm going to go ahead and put my glue, because it's about that long. And again on this one, knee blocks right about there. Hope you can pause this. I hope I'm not going too fast. And then we'll go ahead and put those just a little bit back of, because again, we've got to put a cover on it, and I want the cover to be as flush as possible towards the front. So that's about right. Starts right where the indent is, and then whatever the length is. Fortunately, these don't have to be perfect, because they're really just to put that extra bulk in the front. The jumpers use to help them grip the horse and not fall forward. All right, so once my knee block supports are in place, then we're going to do the covers. So the skyver, I'll work it a little bit because I want to get some of that stiffness out. So it happens after you dye it, so I'll just work it a little bit, give it a little bit of extra pliancy, and then go ahead and I know where I want to put this. I'm going to glue right around the front, in there, right over the top, and right behind. Now, I know these are really tiny pieces, and so, you know, people might want to make them a little bigger for their first ones because they are tiny to work with. But anyways, I would then start right there, and then towards the front, make that nice curve in there. Okay, so you see how it fits really well right in there. Don't want too much overage here. So you can see that. And then go ahead and press it down around the back. All right, so I get quite enough glue in here. So go ahead and just put a little bit in there. All right, there we go. Okay, and that's hope you can see that. That's how that works. So we'll do the same thing over here, so you can see it again. Mostly, see next time. I'll make sure I have enough glue there. It's probably way too much glue on the top and around the back. All right, so that's like way too much glue, but I hope you can see it. Sometimes I use too much just so it becomes visible. All right, we start right up here at the top, but we want to make sure that we wrap it first around the front because this will be seen. The back isn't going to be seen. It's underneath the flap. So you want to go ahead and get this all the way around the front. And once you're happy with that, I'm not quite happy with that. There we go, that's better. Then we'll go ahead and press down the top and push it down that way. And then we'll go ahead and get the back. Fingernails are helpful for things like this. All right, so I'm going to peel off a little of that glue there, but there you go. That is your flaps. All right. Okay, so the next step is to do the skirts. You'll need your skirt piece, your suede, your knee pads, and then these go on the back to finish covering it. We're not ready for those yet. That'll be part of final assembly, so I'll put those aside. What I'm going to do is we're going to start by gluing these, right? So we're going to go here and then straight down. So if you can see that, it's right along this hole here, and then we're going to go about halfway from that hole, and we're going to go straight down, and then we're going to fill that in. Now, because I'm dealing with suede, I want to make sure I don't have any excess glue, so I'm just going to go ahead and tap some of that out of the way, and then I'm going to do wrong side up or right side down, however you want to call it, and I'm going to match that little notch right there, and then go straight. See that notch matches, and then straight down. See that? All right, and then I'll just go ahead and put it on this side and press it down. If you end up with any glue, just go ahead and push it up into the leather. Don't wipe it this way. Push it into there, okay? Show you again from the other side, just in case. We're going to do here, halfway from that hole, and then straight down. So there's not a lot of suede right in there, right? And that cover is just going to be barely there. I'm using a piece of t-shirt, a cut up piece of t-shirt, because it works better than like paper towel, which has little hairs on it. All right, and so we're going to do that again. Very little glue. Match the notch, and then go straight down. All right, and then it's going to be very little right in here. Okay, flip that over, push it down. If there's any excess, we'd push it that way, and that's what those covers look like. Okay, next up is we kind of want to define where we're going to put these pads because we'll dry fit them first. So I'm going to put, you know, fingernail or finger or something, and I want to define right in here where it's going to go. I'll do that on both sides. And then we'll dry fit, okay? They only really fit one way, and you want to match this curve right in here, okay? Now, sometimes you'll find that it may be a little bit too big depending upon whatever fabric you're using. On suede, I find in order to have some working room to be able to get this to glue, is that I want to take just a little bit off this front edge. Just a little bit, show you, just to give me a little bit more room to glue. So it's not very much, maybe like a 1/16 of an inch. And I just want to make sure on both sides. Now this is, you know, advanced. You'll find, I mean, it's like if you get a pattern for a pair of pants, you're going to fit it, right? So we're kind of making adjustments for the fabric or the materials that we're using. The important thing is to have, it should be equal all the way around on this front edge, and it should fit snugly into that curved space that the pattern created in there, all right? And then we'll just go ahead after we've dry fit it, and we'll put in our glue. And we only need it really in the center to keep this in place. So it's to push it in so it's nice and snug, and make sure it's turned correctly so that we get the right snug fit with all the extra we need to fold this up, okay? Same thing over here. Go ahead and just really in the middle. We'll go ahead and again snug fit it into that curve, and then make sure we have, you know, enough extra here to do a fold over. All right, so since that glue's set up, we can go ahead and move back to this side, and we're working with suede, but the back side is not what matters, it's the front side. You want to make sure you don't have any glue on this hand, you know, anything that might touch that suede. So if at any time when you're doing this and you'll pull it up, anytime you get glue on your fingers, you need to wipe it off immediately, all right? You don't want to accidentally touch that suede with glue on your fingers. So I'll push it up, hold it in place, right? And then that way I've got it secure. Now what I'm really trying to do is make sure it's secure on this edge here, all right? And I found that to do that, you almost have to pull it towards the back. Now once this is dry, we'll go ahead and cut some of that extra bulk off. But right now I just want to get it in place. So we'll do the same thing on this side, all right? Sorry for the noise. All right. And really should work the other side first, but I just don't want to end up getting any glue. I don't think I have any. It's good. This wasn't as much glue as the other ones. All right, so I'm really just pushing it and rolling it up, because what I want in this fit is right here. All right, that's where it's got to be nice and snug and tight. All right, so go ahead and get that. Now this is what it looks like, okay? We still have to do our stirrup leathers, okay? And for that you can do any, really any, you can do leather lace, or you can create your own lace, all right? And what I'm going to use is a 3/32 inch lace. Yes, 3/32. That's the length that I buy. And it's already pre-skived. It's also pre-dyed. I get the natural and I dye it, and that way I can color match. I'm basically using the same color dye on everything. So I recommend that we bring it in from the back, and then pull it towards the front, and then put it towards the back again. So I just want to see right now where my hole is, and I'm going to open it up. All right, I'm using these round pliers, right, round nose pliers, just so I can see where the hole is and open it up. And then, and you can use just about anything that, like an awl or a stylus or whatever you have. Then I use my little needle on a stick, and I push it through that hole, pull it up, and then on this side, basically repeat it. I'm going to make the hole a little bigger so I can work in there. It's leather, so it stretches, right? So then we're going to go ahead and flip this over and use my needle on a stick, which, if this will cooperate, we'll go through, right? And we'll pull it. Of course not. Sorry, I'm bumping the camera again. All right, needle on a stick should push that through. There we go. So if we have to, we can pull it up. There we go. That worked. All right, and then I don't need that much, so I'll go ahead and pull just a little bit back because I only need to glue down about a 1/4 inch, so I'll pull it back till there's about a 1/4 inch there, and then I'll glue that 1/4 inch into place. I say it's always easier to work with longer pieces and then trim them to fit, right? All right, now on this side here, I'm going to need to pull this, but I don't want to pull it totally flat. So go ahead and use, stylus, round nose pliers in this case, but something just so I can pull it tight, but not so tight that I couldn't actually stick a piece of leather lace in there. Once I have it tight, then to help hide those slits that I made, I'm just going to go ahead and flatten it. All right, so now it's flat. And if you did it right, nobody will really be able to see the slits. And then on this side, while I'm holding down this, right, I'm going to hold it down here. I'll go ahead and glue this tightly into place, like that. Okay, and then I can go ahead and trim the excess. Okay, and then one more time on the other side. Oh, yeah, I wanted the other side. Wrong one. That's the one I want. Okay, so now I know where the hole is. Get it bigger. Tuck my piece in, right side to wrong side. Use my needle on a stick to push it through. Go ahead and pull it. Widen the hole. See if it'll fit through this time without as much fight. There we go. And then we only need about a 1/4 inch. Pull some of that back. Glue it in place. On this side, we'll pull it with something in there so I don't pull too much. Oops. Right. It's right there. Remove that, flatten it, keep it flattened, pull it over. Put my glue, glue it down. The excess. Okay, so almost done. Now that the suede is dried, what I'm going to do is get rid of this excess along the edge. It's just too much bulk in here. All right, I already have to put piping in there, and there's just so much. So we're just gonna pull it up off the back. Okay, just the back. I don't know if you can see that. I'm not messing here with the edge. I'm just pulling up the extra that's laying on the pad itself. And once I pull that up, then I'm just going to trim it flush with the padding, okay? Just trim it flush. And now if you see, I've gotten rid of extra bulk in here that I really don't need. And then I'll use my smoother to help flatten it even more. All right, then I'll go ahead and pull this up. Okay, and again, see, I'm just pulling up what's resting on the pad. So I'm not messing with the actual edge, just what's on the back. And then my scissors will be flush to the pad, and I just trim right around to get rid of that excess. All right, just what's on the back, not what's on the front. Okay, once that's, oh, sorry, hit that camera again. All right, and then smooth it. That's what the smoothers are for. Helps to flatten and shape. And there you go. That's what your skirts look like. Okay, so everybody's been, how do you make a tree? How do you make a tree? And I know there's trees out there that you can buy You have to have a pattern for those trees. My pattern won't fit them, and I have no plans to make a pattern for them. All right, so we'll stick with my tree. It's a lot less expensive anyways. So here's what you do, and why it's so important to keep the paper on there. Now, I use, these are my platypus, you know, we saw them before, and they're flat nosed, and there's no teeth, all right, so they're toothless. Usually they come, you know, in a gift pack of pliers, and most people don't know what to do with them. They're not used for every day. But here's one of the ways in which you can use them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pliers right on the line, right, and I'm just going to move my tree in, right, bend that, and then I'll put it right on there, and I'll bend that. All right, you'll see my paper starting to come off. And then I'll do my best to shape it downwards. Okay, if you can see that, but now it kind of looks like that, right? And I'll do the same thing to the other side. And doing this gives it strength. Shaping it like this gives it strength. I'll go here, and I'm going to push this down, and then I'll go in with these, and I'll keep pulling it. All right. So that's what it looks like right now so far. So if you see, we're making the shape ever so slowly. I do want to make sure it's all the way around. This also helps to put your jockeys in place. So you make a little ledge, and also gives it strength. Okay, and then what you can do, find something round. Can be pliers, can be a stylus. We'll go ahead and give it that lovely curve, right, that we're used to in the front. So now we have that curve. We've got our arms, right? That's going to help attach to the actual saddle. And then the next thing we have to do is roll this up. So find something, a Sharpie. This is a little big, but we're going to roll our tree up. All right, so now we've got, that's our shape. You can see we have a very lightweight shaped tree, all right? Now you can do other things if you want to the tree. I found this works really well. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to start adding the padding. So I'm not doing the cutback style, right? I told you guys that about the cutback. We don't need that. And in case you didn't know, that's a different style in your saddle. I'm not doing that. You can do it. I didn't cut that up. Okay. So on the paper, I'm just going to put glue right where the shape of the actual padding that we're going to do. All right. And I want to make sure I fit the front, not the back. All right. So we need to fit the front. I want to fit the front. All right. We're fitting in there. Okay, and then make sure it follows these lines along the sides, right, all the way up to the back. Now there's usually going to be a little bit of excess. I've never been able to figure out how to get rid of that without taking off too much. So at this point you could go ahead and cut that. I like to leave it so I don't get too sharp a pull when I put the cover on. Okay, so that's your bear tree. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting on the cover. Okay, and it's got all these pre-done little indents and things to try and help you fit it. The first part that we want to do is we really just want to get the arms, and right where this is, so we want to glue in there. That's what we want to start with. We don't have to glue this whole thing down. I just glue, basically I would go here where the arms are, right? And just what paper is left. That's what I like to glue. If you glue down on the seat, sometimes you'll get these funky wrinkles, and I don't like those. So we'll just glue where it is structurally. And if it helps, you can, turn it upside down and try to get it so that the tip of that cut is right in the center. And then you could push your arms upwards, see how that fits, and then up. And I like to fit this edge in here. So if you notice, that's nice and flush, that's nice and flush. And then I'll flip it over and I'll just start pulling it down on these lips that we created, right? So that holds that seat in place, but this can still move where this weight is, all right? And pull it, get a good fit, because that's kind of critical. And once you have that, it should be mostly centered if we did it right. See, this is why I like Skyver. It's good stuff. Don't know how it got so big, but okay. And then I like to go from the front to the back. I'm going to glue down the extra. It's actually just covering that aluminum and making sure it sticks when we do the final assembly. So flip that over. And if it's too long, because it's a stretchy Skyver, you can always trim it. So once I get that down, now I want to do these 4 pieces. So I'll go ahead and put glue on those. I mean, you could do this in a suede. I've done this before, but people don't seem to like suede seats. It's interesting because suede would grip better than leather. I would think that would be desirable, but yeah, what do I know? I just make saddles. I just mimic other people. That's what I do. Okay, so I'm pulling those in, and we're trying to get the best fit right in here. This is what matters, right? Right in there. And if you have to, I use my smoother, try and, smooth that into place, because this up here is what people are going to see. So that's what I'm trying to fix. And then on this side, I can get rid of any extra, any bulk like that. I'm shooting in the wrong direction. I'll get rid of that. Probably could get rid of this. I'm always trimming away the bulk. If I made these pieces too small, you wouldn't be able to put them in there. So yes, I make them big on purpose. So now we've got that part. You can see nice line in here, right? That's what people will see. Okay, next thing is we're going to trying to make sure this is going to fit without wrinkles. So next thing, go ahead and do these. I just like to do a little bit at a time. I don't need to try and do it all at once. So glue only gives you so much time, and it gets a little unwieldy. All right, so I'm going to fit it in there, and then it's going to turn, and you're going to end up with a dart, right? Dart. Do that again. You fit it into this crease that you've created, and then fit this around so it fits there, and then make a dart. Okay, so we got 2 darts. We'll let the glue set up. I'll get rid of them later. All right, then we've got the next 2. And if you notice, it didn't center all that well, but it's a pretty forgiving pattern, so you should be good. Sometimes it just cooperates, and sometimes it doesn't. And now we're going to pull that, and that should line up right along here. And pull it down just a little bit. Okay, and then same thing, we're going to match that line with that pattern, and then we're going to pull it down just a little bit. Okay, so what we're trying to avoid, And I think we managed it. Is any funny wrinkles along the edge on either side, all right? So we pulled any excess right into the back of the seat. And then we'll do this last piece, all right? So there's different ways to do it. And some people will just cut it and tuck it in, if you've ever made tack before. And you have to be a little bit flexible because leather behaves differently. Every saddle you make, it's going to behave differently. So what I try to do, is I'm trying to get in here, is I want to make sure I get the aluminum that's sticking up. I want to make sure I get these little darts that are going to happen because there's a little bit of an overlap. And I'll even put just a little bit on that edge there. I won't do it all the way to the end, all right? This is a waist designated to help you work the pattern. And so now we're going to go ahead and fold that in, all right? And then the same thing over here. We're going to make sure we get that little tuck and fold it in, and then make all of the excess, which will have little wrinkles, but make sure they're on the back side and they're not on your edge, all right? So this hunt seat, see that little corner there? You can't get away from those. In fact, I studied a lot of the new saddles, and once upon a time it was pride of work to not have a single seam. But now it's, I don't know, you know, manufacturing. They want them done fast. And because I still have time to work this glue, the point is to try and get that all the way around as smoothly as possible. So now that I look at it from this side, if you look at the front side, there's no wrinkles, there's no darts. That's what people are going to see right along there. See that? So like that. Okay. And then while that part of the glue is setting up, I'm going to go ahead and trim away my darts. And being careful not to go too far to the edge. So you just want to get rid of the bulk in the middle. I hate bulk. All right, so see, I'm trimming it only on the back side, and that way it can't actually be seen from here. All right, so you won't see it here. And now this, pardon my dogs, now this, I'm going to just go ahead and, now that it's dry, because it doesn't take that long really, just go ahead and trim all that off, all right? So I have very little bulk back here, and that's what we're going for. And then I'll go ahead and use my smoother and flatten stuff more, get out any unevenness as much as I can. All right, so there you go. That is what the tree looks like at this point. All right, and this tree is designed for this pattern. I have other trees designed for other patterns. So one of the things you might want to do is just, sometimes I put it this way and make sure everything looks symmetrical as possible. Let me go ahead and give my tree a little bit more seat. And so what do you think? Fairly good so far, right? Okay. Now what we need to do is put on our jockeys, all right? And they should match right. And if you see, there's just that little hook there that goes towards the front, and then should just fit right into that curve. See that curve? There you go. I'll go ahead and it's from, see, we created this little ledge here for it. So it's right in here. And not the actual tree arm, okay? Just right in there. And we're gonna fit that hook. And then because I skived it, it should be a nice flush fit. And we'll just push that into place. So, all right. See that? Need more lights. and then there's a little extra here I don't like, so I'll just go ahead and turn that off. That was a very stretchy piece of skyver, and didn't really have it on that side. So. Okay, and then again, right from there, you see where I'm doing this, right along the edge, right, and that's a little bit much glue, so I'll just push it down a little bit, and then clean my fingers on my little rag there. Fit it right along there. Okay, and that's right along where your stitch line would be. Eventually we're gonna tuck these back here, right? So there's how it's progressing. So the next thing we need to do, and I worked really hard on finding a solution to the stirrup bar, because you got to put stirrups on, right? And then there's also that little what you call bolt or whatever, and it is a functional bolt, and that bolt goes right here, one on either side. It is structural from the books that I've read. Does keeps everything together. Your D's would be also attached to that bolt, and yes, it is then connected to the stirrup bars. So we make our own on this tree, and this is totally different from the previous saddle. The previous pattern I had, we did D-rings on a strap, and we would just glue, we would make a D-ring strap, and then the D's would hang right about there. That was a lot of bulk, and I'm always about how do I reduce the bulk in my patterns, right? Make it as realistic as possible, close contact type of saddles, right? So what we're going to do is open up these holes, and we had pre-done them, and it's going to go right through, it should go right through that aluminum arm, and this helps put the whole thing together, right? So now we have those holes open. And then the next step is these, I think these are about 2 inch, 1.5 to 2 inch. I don't happen to have a ruler handy, because if you notice, I don't really measure. I eyeball most everything that I do. So we'll need 2 of those. And somewhere I had a second one. It just rolled away. All right, so we need 2 of them. There we go. And they're just straight pins, just with a standard silver head. And so first of all, we'll do them one at a time. And these are the pliers I use. And we're going to push it through till it goes, pretty much through. It doesn't have to go all the way yet. And what we're going to do, and I'm using these because they're what do they call them? Needle nose, right? So we want to do maybe the first tooth, get a grip, and turn it 90 degrees. Okay, so you have 90 degrees. And then we're going to pull it through, including that 90 degrees. So that you can see here on the back side, this is now pointing backwards, and that is flush. Okay, that's step 1. And you have to get that flush. Next thing we're going to do is, you'll see there's a gap here, all right? What I do is right where that gap, so if you can see it, so right where this leather starts, end of that gap, I am going to bend it inwards. All right? And then, it shouldn't be that far, about 90 degrees, right? And then about, whatever that is, I think that's about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to bend it back out again. Okay? And then I will fit it into this channel. All right, so here's where your stirrup bar is, right here. That's where your strap is going to be, your stirrup leather. And the reason why we do that right where it is I'm going to go ahead and pull up this leather, and I'm going to tuck that right into that channel, and that flap then is going to be what holds it into place, so that when you're pulling on that leather strap, it doesn't pull the bar down. All right, very important that this doesn't, it's lots of glue. Usually I don't do lots of glue. This is one where I would do lots of glue, and also one where I would clamp it in place until it dries. Okay, we're going to go ahead, found it. We're going to go ahead and do the other side. So I'm going to show it to you again. Push it through. First tooth, because it's going to be whatever this thickness here is. So usually when I do this, it's about the first tooth. That's why I'm saying first tooth. They don't make this hardware anywhere. So I'm going to put it into 90 degrees. And then I'm going to pull it through so that it's flush here and straight back there. And then right where, see, you still see the can? We're going to grab it right there. So you can see that. And I'm going to push it inwards. And then I'm going to go up about 1/4 inch, and I'm going to push it outwards. And then I'm going to meet it up with that channel right there. And of course, went perfectly the first time. I wasn't paying attention the second time, so that's better. Because I was too busy. There we go. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So go ahead and pull up this. Give it a good dose of glue. Into that channel. Pull it down if I have to. Push that into there. And it's true, one side is usually easier than the other, which is why I show both sides. Sometimes you like to see when people struggle, so you don't feel like it's just you, right? Well, it's not just you. I think I pulled my skirt off, or my jockey off when I was doing that. Oh, maybe not. Right. So, very important we go ahead and set that aside, but so that glue thoroughly dries. But that is your tree. And then we'll move on to putting all the layers together. Okay, next up is the piping. And you have 2 pieces of piping, one's short, one's long. And there's 2 ways to do this, depending upon how cooperative your skiver is. Sometimes you get a really perfect piece, and you'll be able to just kind of roll. And you really just want one roll, because you don't want it too thick. And this can take a little practice too, but you just want to roll the edge. And this is going to be pretty much cooperative. So you could do that, roll the edge. I like that when the skiver, behaves, and then I just glue down that little bit of edge, because that way I only have one layer of this skiver. Another way is to fold it in half. Now that I've rolled it, it doesn't want to do. And I've seen this one's fairly easy, although it's a very flat look. I do it for my cutback because it works, but that cutback pattern, I need to work on that one too. But anyways, we could do that. I'll show you that's one of them too. So just fold it in half. Only I'm not going to really put any glue in the middle because I want it to stay round and puffy at the end. It should look like piping, and if you know what piping is, it's usually fabric wrapped around a core. And we want that look, but we don't want a lot of bulk. So you could do it this way. Just fold it like in half. And then, and just to try and emphasize what it is, then I'll go and I'll put, use my little ducky bills here. And put that in like that. And I'll try and puff it out a little bit so it's nice and round and bulky here, but then it's flat on this side. So if you see that, a little bit more work, kind of like this look, a little better than the third option I'm going to give you. And that's, so let's say you have very uncooperative, thin, this is not going to cooperate down here. That's going to be too thin. This is an uneven thickness, thicker here than it is down here. So for this one, because I want the round, this is it's a leather. They call it a leather cord, but it's like a plastic look cord. It doesn't feel like leather at all. It just feels like plastic. So you cut a length, and then we'll make it real piping. Now it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be this. I also have this cord. I just don't have. It's not going to be long enough. So, but it just has to be something that you can wrap around. I could use this actually because I don't need it actually all the way through. I only need it, from about quarter inch because of seam allowances. So, yeah, let's go ahead and use that because it's a little bit thinner than my leather cord. But you want something relatively thin that's just going to give you that edge. So I'll put the cord on it first so it doesn't wander around. It'll help it's right smack in the middle, right? And then I'll go ahead and just need the glue on one side. And then I should be able to mush it around. Try not to get it on my nice white backdrop. And we'll just start in the middle, we'll fold it over, and then work our way down. Just either using my fingernail to emphasize the piping. Frankly, you could do piping all the way around the edge too. Some saddles have that as finished work. If you're trying to make something that looks like you did a lot of work on it, that would be something you could do, is piping everywhere. You could do piping between the jockeys and the seat, and you could do piping all around the edge of the jockeys, and you could do piping all the way around the edge of your skirts. But anyways, you end up with two pieces, okay? We'll set the longer one aside. This shorter piece is going to finish off the center panel, okay? We have to do this first. So what I'll do is just find out where center is, right? And then we're going to take some scissors, and from where that center is, we're going to cut darts, all right? And if you notice, I'm not cutting all the way through. I just want to get rid of some of this bulk before I run it around that curve. If you've done any sewing, you know what these darts are for. It's a way of doing gathering without actually having to worry about the bulk of gathering. And just do enough that we can get around the back of the seat. So what we need to do, like I said, is all the way around here. And by taking and doing these little darts, it'll go around without a whole bunch of, creating a bunch of darts, right? So we'll go ahead and pick a side, doesn't matter which one. We'll start with just glue right along the back here. And we're gonna seat that right around there. We'll do this right around there. And it looks like we might need another one right in here, because I have to make that go around there. See how that takes out the bulk? Can make that turn. And one more there. Turn it, force it into place. Almost there. All right. Okay. So the point of this is that this is what's going to show. This piping part. The rest of it is really just going to be hidden in between the layers. Okay. Now we're ready for our next step, which is tree and billets. And this lovely piece here, okay? Oh, and your skirts. So we're going to take, first of all, and tuck our little tree arms into those holes. All right, so tree arm into the hole, pulling it snug. So here we go, tree arm into the hole, pulling it snug. Okay, got that. Then we're going to glue these tabs down on both sides. And we want to pull it in tight and then clamp it into place. Same on the other side. We're going to pull it in tight. Clamp it in place. All right, so from here, we're just checking the fit here in the front. A little bit of overlap there, but it's not too bad. We go over that with the piping. All right. Now back here, we can go ahead and glue from this whole straight section. We can glue that down. And that'll help keep the skirt symmetrical. So it's just flat edge to flat. I mean, you see that flat, that line, from there to there, okay? And we're gonna fit that right along the back of the seat here. And we'll go ahead and clamp that into place. Make sure that's symmetrical. I think that's symmetrical. And even if you forget to glue that back, that's fine. It'll still, I mean, it'll still look good. All right, well, that is still almost dry. Then we'll go ahead and get our little flaps here. that dry for a little bit. All right, so I'm kind of running out of time here. Family's getting restless and they're starting to make a lot of noise behind me, so let's see what we can do to get this finished. All right, so as you can see, I just did a little bit of tree shaping just to make sure I've got, you know, what I want here. Sometimes it loses a little shape because you're, you know, yanking it around and everything. But this is kind of where we're at now. So it's really starting to take shape. As you can see, the third dimension is being built up. What we need to do now is to go ahead and secure our billets, and we'll go ahead and cover the back with the piping, okay? So it's almost like these are all in the same motion. I just, I mean, it's aluminum, so it's not going to be a huge, you know, forever permanent bond there. But we put the glue right in the center, and then I'm going to fold this exactly in half. If you're using leather lace, you'll have to do the laces one at a time to fit them in and make sure they're next to each other and not stacked on top of each other. On this here, it fits, see this curve? So there's a curve, that's your back, and then that way is the front, and you just fit it in there, and it should fit right in that space that I created in the pattern without adding extra bulk in the middle, because I'm always trying to get rid of that bulk right there in the middle. While that is drying, then we'll go ahead and glue right around the edge, not exactly to the edge, but on the inside, and this helps to hold your billets in place. This becomes structural, all right, so that your billets don't slide out if they lose their glue contact with the tree. And we're going to see if we can show you how to do this. Flip it over. And what we're trying to do, I don't know if you've ever seen, but there's always this little piping detail right around the back of the saddle. And so we're trying to get it not exactly on the tree, because this always sits up a little bit, but almost, and it should just almost fit also right to the very front. Okay, so if you end up with stretchy leather, the extra should come out here because you can trim it, right? So we're going to do that, and while we're at it, before this glue dries, we're going to go ahead and take care of these little ends now that we have a place to tuck them. So these are tabs designed just for this, right? Just to hold that in place. And so we're going to put it right in between. So remember, it's going to show, so let's see if we can remember. Yeah, I'm remembering. Okay, so the very tip goes there, and then this will cover like that. All right, so your piping detail is right along the edge of your skirt. I need to get my Sharpie out and color that. Silly me, didn't do that, but now's would be a good time. So I'll try that again. A little bit on that tab, a little bit on that tab, and then be able to pull this back, and we're going to tuck it in there so that the tip, is right where that little point is on the seat. If I do it right, it will sit. Yep, that's right. So right about where the street goes straight, the skirt is going to, or the jockey will bend down, and then you'll have your piping detail around the back. And see, that's that. Sometimes I put a little glue in there, just a little bit. If I have to, just kind of smooth it, smash it in there. Okay, so if you notice, now we've got a nice piping detail that tucks under the jockey flaps, and That's kind of what it looks like from the top, and getting a nice shape there. I want to constantly reshaping my tree, so I work it and it loses its shape, but it's aluminum, so you can put it back. All right, now what we need to do is piping around the front. Okay, this is the piping that we made, and I have one side that is more defined than the other on purpose, because that's the one that I want facing upwards. Okay, fold it in half, and we're going to start the piping right in here. See that? Right in there. And I'm only going to do a little bit at a time, because it's a lot easier to do just a little at a time than it is to try and do it all at once. Gives me time to make sure it's in place before I move on to the next section. Okay, so I'm going to tuck that in there, and I'm going to make sure I get it nice and tight right in the gullet of the saddle. Okay, right to there. Okay, got the curve. All right, now let that set up. Pull this back, and then we're going to do the next section. We'll do this side first. So we're going to feed it around this curve, which should be relatively simple. Just follow the curve, and you're trying to put it on the very edge, right? We're not putting it on the back. We're putting it right here on the edge. And then when we get around here, it goes under, so it tucks under like that. Okay, no rush. Make sure you go back and make sure it fits. And now we're going to do the other side, same way. Fit it around this way on the front, and then get the billets out of the way and tuck the end under like that. If we're really careful, we won't get any glue. I think we got glue on the suede. Great. I'll have to deal with that later. All right. So hopefully be able to see the shape. So now back here, you can trim away any excess, being careful only to trim what's going to be on the back side, nothing on the front. So I'll go ahead and get rid of some of this. I don't really need all of this hanging over, so I'll go ahead and get rid of some of that so that it just, oops, maybe it's too much, but we can fix that. Just like that. And on this side, some of this is extra. Oops. Anything that's bulk, I'll take a little bit of this. And actually I should cut it right here where it's flush with the suede cover, right? That's what I did over here. It was a little bit too much off. Now is when we're going to take these last two suede cover pieces, and one has a point, one has a flat edge, right? So we're going to do the flat edge is at the top and the point is at the bottom, and we will take and glue that. So these can be a little tricky. This is really just to make the back side a little prettier. And we'll fit that right in there. All right, so it's not covering my piping. It's just a little bit back, and I think you can see that, right? And then we'll do, again, there's a flat edge and a point, and the flat edge goes at the top up here. And I want to make sure we glue all the way around. Trying to make it fit right there. Okay, so that's all covered, right? See that? Hope you can see that. See if I can do it this way, shadows on the other side. All right. One more step times 2. And if you run into glue, it comes off Skyver, and even the tooling leather, the stuff I use, comes off really well if it's dry. So usually just let it dry and it'll peel off. Got some glue on my suede. I warned you not to do that. So I'll probably take an X-Acto and see if I can't scrape that off the top. But that is a warning about suede, and that's what it looks like when you get glue on the suede. Okay. Sometimes you have to make those mistakes to show them, right? All right, so now we got our pads, and we are just about done, right? So these here fits along here, okay? So we're going to fit it in there, and we do them one at a time. So I'm putting glue just along here, okay? Above the knee block, right along where the Skyver is on the supporting pad for your flaps. All right, decent dose of glue. This is structural, so we want to make sure it's not going to fall off. You kind of have to follow this line and go straight back. Okay, and if you do that and you get it right, then your seat follows your piping, and this is slightly off the edge. Okay, it's not flush in the front. So that, and then we will put one right here, and then this extra glue, it's good. Get that all the way to the tip. So hard to show this part because my hands are in the way. So I want that to hang almost over that piping. This monster clip here, and while it's clipped like that, I'm going to take something and I'm going to pull out that extra glue. It's hanging out. I like to take it now so I don't have to deal with pulling out little bubbles later. All right, go in there and work out that extra glue. make sure it's seated. And if you have any extra glue in here, I would go ahead and see if you can't get rid of that now too. Sometimes I have a lot of extra and I overdo the glue. Okay, I went ahead and let that set up. Give it plenty of time to set up. It's going to be overnight for everything to dry. Before I do the other one, I'll go ahead and Sharpie right in here because it should be the same color as the rest of the saddle. So just go ahead and do that while I'm thinking about it. And then we're going to go ahead and put on the other side. And it's same thing all the way down the middle, all of this here, right to that tip. Make sure it's good dose of glue. And then again, we're kind of gonna fit, see that, how do you describe this? So there's that little indentation there, right? That's gonna go right about where the uncovered area is, right? And then it's gonna go straight back. And then once you're fairly sure you've got it, you go ahead and clamp there. And then make sure that your seat is correct here. And then make sure you're okay back here all the way to the tip, right? All the way to that tip. And then put that there. And then we're going to get rid of excess glue. Squeezes out, and then check in here for any and we'll just set that aside for a while to dry. A while is 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, so it's pretty much set up. It's not yet dry. I would give it 24 hours to dry before we do anything more with it. Just set it aside, put it in a little baggie, set it aside. And that's pretty much all we're going to do for this episode. Next episode is going to be some more detail work and also the girth, the stirrup leathers, the stirrups. Show you how to move on with that. So I'll see you for the next episode. Thanks for watching.